And a very good morning to you. Welcome back. It is Rhema Brekky, and it is that time of the month where we get to chat to our resident medico, Dr. Clara from Life Medical Centre. And today, firstly, welcome back to the studios again.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's been a while since I saw you.
Right. And look, another big topic as per usual, and this one is all about mental fitness. Now, again, the whole mental health area has really taken center stage, hasn't it, in a lot of different aspects over the last, probably, I would guess, maybe 10 to 15 years or more, maybe.
Yeah.
And it is a good thing that that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And probably exacerbated by COVID as well. You know, like we've noticed a lot more mental health presentations as general practitioners in the last couple of years. So, yeah, it's very important to discuss these things.
Yep, absolutely. So that's exactly what we're looking at this morning is mental fitness. So let's jump in and let's start with the basics, really. What is a definition of mental fitness?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? So mental fitness is having and maintaining a state of well-being and growing awareness of how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. So it's a bit wordy and clumsy, but when you think about it, it's about kind of, having our head screwed on and thinking sensibly, right?
Yeah.
So just as having physical fitness gives us an increased ability to respond to life and, all its joys and challenges in a physical way, mental fitness can help us in the same way. And so it allows us to pause and respond in the way that we would actually like to in any particular moment, rather than having to reset and then mend fences later. Sure. Because we've kind of, not behaved in the way that we wanted. So in some ways, it's like accessing the wisdom of hindsight in the present moment.
Yep. So a good level of self-awareness, in other words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So how does fitness help mental health?
Yeah, so look, when we're mentally fit, we interact with the world in a different way. So it's not just one interaction with another person, it's the cumulative effect of all those little interactions on our emotional health. So imagine that in in all the interactions that you might have, over a week, you are less reactive and you can choose how to think and how to respond rather than bouncing from one reaction to another, which over time can add up to a lot of stress and a lot of negative emotions because we're not in control, we're just reacting. So in the same way that our physical fitness affects our mental health can also ultimately affect our physical health.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what are some of the benefits of mental fitness?
There are quite a number of benefits to mental fitness. You often like asking these questions with lots of big answers.
Yeah, we've got to get deep. That's what people want to hear.
Yeah. So I'll go through each one, so bear with me. There's a number of them. So the first is being present. So how often are we like in a conversation or doing something, but we're not really there,
sure.
Right? That could be with our partners, at work, with our kids. So in a mindful state, we can better retain information, listen and be aware of, but not be sabotaged by distractions. So, we can tend to be easily distracted in this day and age. And this results in more enjoyment of life and better relationships and, a better ability to relate to other people.
So put the phone down when you're having a conversation with somebody, really.
Yes.
That's always a good thing to do.
That's a great start, right?
Yeah.
We can't help our minds wandering sometimes, but this is where the mental fitness comes in training all of that. Now, the second is the ability to respond and not react. So how often are we just merely responding to the situations that are being placed in front of us and not actually thinking about how we can respond? So we can have more control over our automatic thoughts. We can choose to respond in a more rational and less emotive way, so less emotionally driven. And this can improve our relationships and the way we think about our world and preserves more options for us in any environment in how we behave. The third is improving cognitive function. So better focus, processing speeds, memory, concentration, time management, communication, right? All sounds really good. And that's because all these things have a positive impact on us personally and professionally. And so relationships will improve as a result of remembering information about our family, our friends, our colleagues, our clients, important events, being on time, like all of those things that we value in other people as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, the fourth one is increase positive emotions. So with increased awareness comes the ability to notice and reframe thoughts in a more helpful way. So we're able to then speak kinder thoughts to ourselves, which will then lead to more positive emotions. And then kinder thoughts and compassion can help us to shape a more optimistic mindset that then leads to positive behavior. And we all know that positive behavior ends up making us feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is having more confidence. Everyone wants more confidence, and with optimism, our relationship with ourselves becomes stronger. So self-efficacy, which is our belief in our capacity to act in the ways that's necessary to reach certain goals,
Sure.
that will increase. And, we will learn to focus more on our strengths and ruminate less on the things that we're not so good at. Not in a self-inflated kind of way, but in a realistic kind of way, right? We all have strengths, we all have gifts, but we all know that we also have weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Being aware of those is always a good thing too, particularly when you're in relationship with people. But, and really we're here to serve other people, aren't we?
Yeah, that's right.
At the end of the day.
Yep, exactly.
So what are some of the ways, before we get into that, sleep is a big one.
Yeah. Look, with sleep, having mental fitness contributes towards better sleep. And as I will discuss later, like conversely, sleep will also improve mental fitness. So it's kind of one of those things where, it's a bit of a linchpin in the whole thing around mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
And we'll go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. So that brings us on to our next point. Now, what are some of the ways that we can improve our mental fitness?
Yeah, there are lots of ways. So I'm going to give you, and our listeners, like a massive list of stuff. Now, look at it as a bit more of like a menu at a restaurant that you can choose and pick from rather than like a prescriptive list of, I must achieve all of this. This is not possible.
So this morning, you're getting the buffet on the breakfast show.
Yeah, that's right. This is the buffet of mental fitness. Right. So the first one is gratitude. So that involves something as simple as taking a moment each day to acknowledge the things that you're grateful for in your life.
Yep.
Living in Australia, we have a lot to be thankful for. We often don't acknowledge that. And just taking a bit of time out each day, helps keep our day in a perspective that is positive, right? And reinforces our positive memories. Sometimes the next thing is keeping a journal. So we know that writing might not be for everyone, but if you write down how you feel, it might help you to process your emotions and process your thoughts. So then you can keep tabs on moments or behaviors that bring on negative emotions and figure out strategies on how to cope if they happen. And it's a great way to also write down and highlight for yourself, the wins that you've had in your life and things that, that you've done well in.
Yeah.
The third one is mindfulness. So, lots of people have different connotations of what mindfulness means. People think it requires you to kind of like sit in a quiet room in a lotus position and, praying or chanting or any of those things. But what it actually really means is being present and staying in the moment. So that can happen right now as I'm speaking to you, that my mindfulness thought is I'm aware of looking at Mick, seeing you in the studio and speaking into the microphone. My hand gestures, my intonation, all of those things, that is mindfulness. So that can actually help us to reduce stress because our attention is staying in the moment and our thoughts aren't drifting to negative things. You just don't have the mental space for that.
Sure.
Breathing is another one. So sometimes we find that practice deep breathing exercises can actually encourage the body to relax. And it's a great way to ease tension and then putting our mind at rest. So, we're a physical body and God designed us to, be able to breathe in and out, not just to kind of get air, but to sort of, control our emotions and control that sort of primitive side of, are we in a state of flight or fight, or are we actually, relaxed?
So when you're talking about that, obviously that's where the whole physicality comes into play with, things like the vagus nerve and, the breathing helps with the vagus nerve to release that. So, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. And breathing is one of those strange things where if you don't think about it, it happens automatically.
Yeah.
But if you do think about it, you have full control of it. And you can actually use it to trick your body into telling the rest of your physical body, am I in stress or am I in relaxation?
Right.
So it's actually quite a useful skill to learn. And then sleep, as we talked about earlier. So we can probably have an entire conversation on sleep, but to simplify it, our body needs sleep so that our mind can process the day. So while you sleep, your brain does a lot of important mental chores to essentially clean out the garbage can of the day, refresh our mind, process all the thoughts and things that we've learned and seen for the day, and to make sense of like situations that we've been involved in, interactions that we've had. And so, recommendation, every adult should be aiming for at least 7 hours of sleep on a regular basis.
There you go. We are chatting with our resident medico, Dr. Clara Chu, in the studios this morning on mental fitness. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back with her right after this. Welcome back. This is Rhema Brekky, and we are chatting with our resident medico, Dr. Clara Chu, this morning on mental fitness. And Clara, we've been moving through quite a few topics this morning, and we are looking at some of the ways that we can improve our mental fitness.
Yeah, so let's continue this smorgasbord, right? This
Yep,
buffet.
that's it.
So the next one is new hobbies. So my recommendation is pick an activity that you love or something that you want to try. The focus on this activity will keep your mind active and create a positive experience because it's not work and it's not a chore. So, the hope is that your chosen hobby will give you space to stay in the moment, enjoy and focus. And this could be like playing a musical instrument, learning a new language, knitting or crocheting, some kind of craft, painting or drawing. Woodwork, could be all sorts of things, and definitely, anything that's kind of like a sporting skill or something like that is also, really beneficial. Another one on this menu is reading. So, when we open a book and we focus on the stories and the characters, it's like a creative form of mindfulness because your imagination gets to play and it keeps your mind active with like visualizing what's going on, in the story or in the narrative that someone's telling you. And so, carving out some uninterrupted time to be able to read so that you can sort of like stay in the book, it can be really helpful. The next one people might like, play. So,
Everyone likes that word.
Yeah, let a game hold your attention. So it could be a word game like Wordle, crosswords, numbers game like Sudoku and those other things, or a board game or a card game. These games will help you stay present and keep your mind stimulated. Another favorite of mine in terms of play is escape rooms. I know there's a few popping up on the coast, right? Get together with a group of friends. It's social. You're solving puzzles. I can guarantee you in an escape room, you do not have the time to worry about the rest of life, right?
Sure.
So definitely one to try for those who are keen for, a bit of a challenge. The next one is tasks. Now, we love the idea of multitasking in this modern day society. We think that it's a bit of a badge of honor if you can multitask and get like 4 or 5 things done at the same time.
Yeah.
This is actually the opposite of helping your mental fitness. So have a one task rule, because when you try to juggle multiple tasks at once, it actually leads to stress and muddled thoughts. But if, on the other hand, if you focus on one task at a time, you think clearly, get a better sense of accomplishment when you actually tick off that one thing on your to-do list. Mm-hmm. So, get rid of that idea of I need to multitask. Just do one thing at a time and do it really well. Yeah.
Look, I often find with that one, it's good if you've got a fairly busy day on or even a busy week, it's always great to just make use of a diary.
Yeah.
Write things out so you can, it's almost like you're putting them out of your mind then. You've got them on paper, but you're like, okay, what's the next thing I need to tackle?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you find that you're doing it relatively stress-free, depending on what it is, but you can be a lot more focused as well.
Yeah. Now, no conversation with me goes without moving and eating healthily. So there are last two.
I like that.
Yep. So the next one is moving our body, especially moving outdoors. So I've said this many times before on your show. Exercise can improve your sense of control, coping ability, and self-worth. So we know that people who exercise regularly often report how good it feels to achieve a goal. Whether it just be, being able to run a certain distance or, having gone for a walk that's a certain distance or for a certain period of time, achieving something in sport. So, exercise can also distract you from negative thoughts and provide opportunities to try new things. And then if you want more benefit, try doing it all outdoors. Recent studies have found that people report a high level of vitality, enthusiasm, pleasure, and self-esteem, and a lower level of tension, depression, and fatigue after they've walked outside.
Sure.
So if your listeners are after something that they can do regularly that brings them a sense of community and, being outdoors, I would suggest looking up a local park run.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Blue spaces too is a very important thing. Just being around the water.
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly. So, yeah, just something to try. And finally, eating healthily.
Here we go.
We won't go too much into food today, but it's been shown that eating natural and unprocessed foods will generally result in fewer mood swings and, a general improved ability to focus and do the things that we need to do in life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's a whole lot in there that we've gone across this morning. So can anyone really be too young or too old to improve their mental fitness?
No, definitely not. So, all these things that I talked about, can be and should be utilized for anyone at any age. No one's too young, no one's too old.
Yeah, that's a good thing to keep in mind. Now, we've obviously listed quite a few ways to improve our mental fitness. Now, for you personally, because I think I'll have a sneaking suspicion for your first couple, I would imagine. But what would be your top three that people could really start to implement basically right away?
Yeah, so one of my favorites is breathing. It's free. So, and with other health benefits that, can add to our lives, I think that, as something that's freely available to everyone at every age, it's just a bit of a no-brainer of something to try. And, for most people, even if you have some kind of physical limitations, you still have control of your breathing. So I love that one. Being grateful, I think this is something that helped me personally, suffer from postnatal depression a number of years ago, and really starting a gratitude journal that I did every night was really something that highlighted to me how many good things God was giving me in my life. So, I think that as Christians, we have so much to be thankful for, especially in knowing that this life is not all that we have. We have eternal hope, and we know that our self-worth has already been won for us through Jesus.
Right.
So, we are just so much freer to be able to live the lives that God has given us. To acknowledge that the giver of this gift every single day, is a joy that we have.
Amen to that.
Yeah. And then my third is moving. Fundamentally we're animals and we're designed to move. I wasn't always a mover, but over the years I've grown to love it. It gets our blood pumping and it just makes us feel alive. It makes us feel like, that we are alive inside this body that we've been given.
Sure. Now, what resources are available to people who want to work on their mental fitness?
Yeah, so there are a few apps that I recommend to my patients or that I use myself. So there is an app that helps with breathing exercises. So it's called Breathe, Relax and Focus. So it's available on Apple and on Android. It's been a really helpful app for learning some breathing exercises. It's got some of them built in already. Does a bit of a count for you in terms of breathing in for that many seconds, breathing out or holding your breath and those kind of things. So I find that a really practical and useful one that you can do to just learn some breathing exercises to help in different circumstances like sleep, relaxing, or just, learning to focus.
Yeah.
Another one another couple that I like for guided meditations and to improve mindfulness are Calm and Smiling Mind. So they're both great apps that offer guided meditations with contents that's suitable for both adults and for kids.
Yep, that's a great one to keep in mind, and that's taking advantage of the digital age too. We've got apps for everything almost these days, so why not put it to use for our mental fitness?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great thing to do. Dr. Clara, as always, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Looking forward to catching up next month with some more great health advice. This is Rhema Brekky. We'll be right back after this.